I'm Morgan Thyroid III, and welcome to Archetypes, a fascinating ethnographic look at people, places, and changing cultural vistas in the 20th century. Tonight, Archetypes is brought to you by the Eight-Headed Bulimics Golfing Association of Neptune. And tonight in the studio, you've read about him in the newspapers for the last year and a half. You've seen him on television. And now tonight, Archetypes presents to you this man who originally claims to be Jim Kelly, an ex-serviceman from Huntsville, Alabama, born in 1958. Now he claims to be a living avatar of the god Vishnu, inhabiting the body of Jim Kelly. More than this, though, there's a lot more. On April the 3rd in Madison Square Gardens, is it Jim Kelly? Is it Vishnu? Is it King Cuts? Is it a hedgehog? Is it a polecat? Is it a piece of cheesecloth covered by a bowl of slowly boiling lard? Is it all of these things? Is it none of these things? Are we sure or we're not sure? Tonight we'll find out the answer to these and other perplexing questions on Archetypes. Welcome to the studio, King Cuts.
Thank you, Morgan.
Could you tell me, are you in fact a living avatar, a lineal descendant of Vishnu, the 9th century Hindu god?
Well, as a matter of fact, I am. The Rosicrucians chased us from our planet Delta. We had first begun to surface on this planet roughly 350 million years ago. That's the Mesozoic era.
The late Mesozoic era.
Right. You know your history.
So do you, for an extraterrestrial. Pretty good.
Well, actually, our people were indigenous to Earth. I'm not actually an extraterrestrial. We started out on Earth and we had to leave this planet. The dinosaurs came, they were our pets, they betrayed us. But fortunately, Delton was a haven and we were able to escape. Now we're having to come back and warn the humans about doom.
A lot of people claim that you're a farce, that this is in fact just a ploy to make money. There have been indications of possible international drug network financing your organization. But you must admit, should I call you King Cuts or Jim or what do you?
Please, King Cuts, that's my name.
King Cuts.
Yes, Morgan.
So you claim that there's no illicit practice involved. If that is the case, can you explain how in a year and a half since the inception of your organization, you've raised, according to our research department here on Archetypes, an estimated $150 million, that, hardly from donations alone?
I categorically refuse to answer unless you give me a holy offering of a knave, or actually a knave deluxe would be perfect, Morgan, please.
I don't quite understand what a knave deluxe is, but of course we'd be willing to do anything necessary to comply with your questions. Well, this is all absolutely fascinating, and I suppose we'll find out exactly what a knave deluxe is right after this pause for station identification. You're listening to Archetypes. There's an American living in Nepal, in Kathmandu. He's a Hindu. In fact, he says that he is the Hindu Messiah. He goes by the name of King Cuts. Maybe you've seen some of his disciples. They're all over major cities in America, in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, handing out leaflets, inspirational leaflets, and white paper lotuses. Pick up one of these lotuses. On the top of the leaf, the word King Cuts. And underneath the petals, the not entirely encouraging message, the world is ending. Good evening and welcome to Archetypes, a fascinating ethnographic look at people, places and cultural changing vistas in the 20th century. Tonight's edition of Archetypes is brought to you by the Eight-Headed Bulimic Grandmothers Association of Neptune, and tonight a world exclusive. You've seen him on 60 Minutes. His bizarre exploits have captured the imagination of a nation. Newspapers, TV networks, coast to coast. His name? Jim Kelly. Born June 5th, 1958 in Huntsville, Alabama. This ex-serviceman who now claims to be an avatar or direct reincarnation, lineal descendant of the ancient 9th century Hindu god Vishnu, now alive and well and inhabiting the body of Jim Kelly. But there's more. Much, much more. On April 3rd at Madison Square Gardens, King Katz claims that, mounted upon a white horse and brandishing the votive sword of Hinayama, or consecration, that he personally will be bringing the world to an end. King Katz, can a non-Hindu atheist be a perfect master?
Well, Morgan, could I just ask you first, would you give me a blessed offering? Give me a knave, or a knave deluxe, please.
A knave deluxe? Well, apparently this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a knave deluxe, and this is, I'm quite excited about this. This is the first time I've done one on archetypes. I hope it's a deluxe too. We'll try.
That was the most votive facial offering. Wow, that's very good, Morgan. You show much potential, let me tell you. And I'll bet you anything you feel a lot better now, right?
Well, I must admit I do feel effervescent, yes?
It's startling. This consciousness level is infected, man.
Don't you mean infectious?
Well, I can tell you this. During my third incarnation as Shiva, I had the entire world shaking on its knees, throwing up blood. Shiva the Destroyer.
But I understand that this time, during your 8th and final reincarnation, you're materializing as Avalokitesvara, or the Hindu god of enlightenment and perfect inner space. April the 3rd, Madison Square Gardens. A sold-out audience for the end of the world?
Are you kidding me? It's going to be one of the biggest events this entire planet's ever seen.
Well, there's certainly a full house, ladies and gentlemen, and nobody can argue with that.
Nope, you can't argue with that. And the reason is because I've come to help people, to save the entire human race. Please, join me.
Welcome back to Archetypes, a fascinating look at the world around us. I'm Morgan Thyroid III, and we're interviewing King Katz, a neo-Hindu messiah. We'll have to wait and see. First though, our second guest of the evening, formerly Jim Kirkpatrick, now His Divine Grace A.C. Swami Prabhupatra, and the exclusive world press agent for the King Katz organization. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, if you want to be free, you got to call me AC. Thanks, I'm glad to be on.
Yes, I'm sorry, AC. AC, how does a 1.5-year-old business corporation suddenly, in a matter of essentially months, amass an $150 million fortune? Now, I know there have been allegations of some kind of maybe international drug networking. Can you substantiate those stories?
Well, I'm not sure that if we're touching upon the proper issues here to be discussed. I think we're falling away from the point of the entire procedure in the matter of which I was internally unspoken for. But it happens all the time. You're not the first, but the problem I have with it is when you don't address the direct issue of it, you're overstepping what you originally had set out to achieve, and it does you no good. It certainly does other parties no good.
There are a couple of points there I missed. The one about going over the facets of the situation that the other parties haven't necessarily construed as being correct upon the initial arousal of the information.
Well, it all stems back to the same type of ignorance that was the onset of the matter before us, and a lot of times it's a snowball effect. This is what happens when these things, once they get started, there's nothing to do about them, and you go to address the issue to deal with the problem, and you find that you're addressing the wrong subject matter, and you're really not dealing with the right problem. You're helping something which is not needed help, and you're totally ignoring the root of the situation, and that's the fallacy behind it.
Yeah, I suppose it's the verisimilitude of the issue, ipso facto, the prima facie examples of the evidence in question, that drives us to be motivated to achieve these hitherto undisclosed substantiations.
Well, I tell you, speaking from personal experience, I'm not sure that that's justified, that way of thinking is exactly where we want to go, the direction we want to take. Because I feel, again, we could be stepping off the corrective path to the situation in the first place.
So you're guaranteeing the end of the world on April 3rd. I mean, this is the ultimate promotions organization's dream. But I imagine the pitfalls and the blocks that must be put in your way with an event of this magnitude.
I understand, and I think I sort of understand where you're coming from in your pattern of thinking, but again, you're missing the boat here. You're missing symbolically end on April 3rd. Not necessarily physically as we know it end. So it's symbolism is what it is. We're dealing with symbolic situations here, and that could in turn change things before that or after that.
Well, so then can you, if it's not an actual, so you're saying it's not going to be any kind of a violent confrontation, no fire and brimstone from the skies?
Not necessarily, but we don't know exactly what to expect.
But you're saying you can guarantee, so in other words, we can nail you down to some kind of psychic change?
Something will happen. I can't exactly say beforehand what sort of gravity the situation will bear on the current surroundings. However, something, whether it be physical, emotional, or psychological, something will occur.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's all happening April 3rd at Madison Square Gardens. You're listening to Archetypes. Thank you very much, AC. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
And we'll be right back with King Cuts himself and more in-depth examination of this fascinating issue on Archetypes. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Archetypes, a fascinating ethnographic look at people, places and changing cultural vistas. I'm Morgan Thyroid III, and tonight the world messianic phenomena of King Cuts. We were just talking moments ago to the King Cuts organization's world press agent, His Divine Grace A.C. Swami Bratwapatra, and he told us that this wouldn't necessarily be a physical end, but more some kind of spiritual transference of energy. What if everything goes wrong with the psychic influence, is my question to you. Supposing the whole thing just doesn't come off.
Excuse me, Morgan. Mr. Thyroid, I apologize. Listen, what we're talking about here is mind control.
In a sense then, incorporating the proto-consciousness?
What I'm talking about here is mind control with neo-Dionysian proportions. Those who would refuse the Age of Horus, imposed by me, King Cuts, would die a horrifying death. Would you like a demonstration?
Well, apart from the agonizing death part, it all sounds pretty exciting to me. And the world's waiting. And all the world's the stage. And the world's eyes are on King Cuts.
Ah, exactly where I want the world's eyes to be.
And this is the stage tonight. This is broadcast history in the making. Can you really give us a demonstration? You can actually demonstrate your psychic powers on television right now before a worldwide audience.
I could, and I'll do it as an altruistic sign to the humans that I am for real, and I want to save people from preeminent doom.
Well, it sounds very exciting, except for the agonizing death part. How about if we leave that out just for the time being?
Well, I'll need my votive headpiece to perform a Kabbalistically correct neo-Dionysian demonstration. As further evidence of my genuineness, I will, Morgan, now molecularly fuse with my wife Lakshma. See? Here I am. My baby!